These are the Chat City interviews from 103.2 Preston FM.
If you live in Preston South Ribble, then of course you know about the beautiful Winkley Square. But if you're not from Preston South Ribble, maybe you're not too sure. Well, Winkley Square is situated near the centre of Preston here in Lancashire. And the square was first established in 1801 around Town End Field, owned by Thomas Winkley, as an exclusive residential area for the town's gentry. It is now occupied mostly by insurance, legal and other business offices, although some residential developments have recently been made. And the square's gardens, now an open public park, originally consisted of private plots, each owned by residents. A statue of Sir Robert Peel stands on one side of the central gardens opposite Cross Street, erected in 1852. And there's now restaurants around there, and it's a beautiful place to visit. I know lots of people who work in Preston actually do go down to have lunch in Winkley Square, and it is a beautiful place to visit. Discussions have taken place over quite some time now about the future of Winkley Square, and at the moment there is an opportunity for people in Preston to make their representations known. And to talk more about the square and hopefully about the future of the square, I'm more than pleased to welcome into our studio this morning Cllr John Swindels, Cabinet Member for Planning and Regulation, and also Deputy Leader of Preston City Council. So Cllr Swindels, John, it's lovely to have you in the studio this morning.
Good morning.
And I mean, Winkley Square really is a jewel in the crown, isn't it, in Preston, and just off the main shopping street. And yet, if you go into Winkley Square, you could be in the middle of the countryside because of the solitude and because it is just such a peaceful place to visit.
Absolutely. It was built rather like the main squares in London, and they're treasured in London, and it's something that people perhaps aren't aware. It's just off the main drag in Preston, and for people that don't live in the city, who probably it's so close to them and they would never think to visit it, and they're missing a real gem.
They certainly are. And in the local newspaper just recently, there were photographs of yourself actually visiting the square, and some of the history, some of the beautiful photographic opportunities that there are. I mean, one of the photographs shows an Ionic capital on a plain column over one of the buildings. There's ornate sandstone corbel on a building at Glover's Court, the statue of Sir Robert Peel. So the history just comes alive, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. There's the Edith Rigby plaque as well, one of the leading members of the suffragettes who lived on that square as well. And Cannon Street that runs off it, there's a mosaic I've probably walked past hundreds of times in the last few years, probably never even noticed it there. It's the entrance to a shop, and that's been flagged up as one of the bits that we need to record and need to make sure don't vanish. They laid there in 1842, blue and white mosaic, and as I say, most people walking down Cannon Street would walk straight past it and never even see it.
I know. It's amazing. There is the thing, isn't there, that whenever we're going anywhere, we always look up, but we don't look at what's around us, so we don't notice it. Were you surprised that there are over 40 Grade 2 listed buildings in the Winkley Square area?
Not really, no. I've had a list for a while, but until I became cabinet member, who's this responsibility, I would have been shocked to know there were that many there. There's some wonderful buildings, and sometimes difficult to convert into modern offices, but as you say, a great location to be.
And there's been discussion for quite some time about the future of Winkley Square, but things really are now moving. Who are the other organisations that are involved with the council in looking at the future of the square?
The Community Interest Company, a lot of the businesses and the solicitors' offices, and the owners of some of that parcels of land within Winkley Square, because most people presume it's a council park, but there are still plots that used to be the old gardens of some of these properties are still in the ownership of certainly a couple of solicitors, and there are a couple of small pieces that nobody seems to know who they own. So that's a real surprise in itself, that because that's what the square was. It was gardens, front gardens for the properties that were built in the square.
And I know drainage is an issue, but I take it that whatever happens, that the gardens will remain. That we call them the sunken gardens because, when you're sat in the gardens, it feels like that, particularly during the summer, subtropical weather that hopefully we'll have during the summer, sitting in the sunken gardens. So I take it that the garden, whatever, will be the centrepiece remaining of Winkley Square.
Yes, it will, and it'll be really only changed to allow people easier access into it, because some of the paths are not the best, and they'll be put in place so you can get people with wheelchairs and etc. into there and to enjoy the gardens, where they probably just have to sit on the periphery now and look in. Drainage is an issue. There's a spring under there and you can imagine in this sort of weather it's very full at the moment and difficult to drain away, but drainage can be sorted without damaging the roots of the trees, which would obviously kill them, and that's one of the challenges as well.
And with the empty properties that we've mentioned, I mean, what would you personally like to see? Would you like to see more residential use within the square, or maybe that it is used for more restaurants, or, the nightlife that I know there's lots of discussion about the nightlife in Preston in the future? Would that make it a lively neighbourhood to be visiting at night?
Yes, it would, and I think that would, and to continue with offices rather than... sadly, we did lose an appeal on where the council didn't want to house a multiple occupation in there. We would rather see them as more family housing than that. But that appeal was lost. But there's only one at the moment. But we would prefer to see the restaurants, the businesses thriving in this area as well.
And what about funding for future proposals? I mean, are we more or less guaranteed now the funding? Is some of it from lottery funding that we're...
Heritage Lottery Fund will fund most of the work in there. There is some match funding because you have to achieve match funding to do that. So the Community Interest Company and the businesses in there have contributed to that as well and put in the bid together. Really, once you've got through stage one bid, it's really yours to lose. They've said this is what they'd like to see. They just want the detailed plans in place. So I think we can, with a fair win, look forward to seeing the square start to come alive again within probably next year rather than this, because we'll hear later this year, but obviously some of the works can only go on when the trees are not in leaf, etc. So that will dictate the timing of it when we actually find the final details. It's round about 18 months from getting stage one lottery funding to actually getting hold of the money from the lottery fund, and quite rightly they want to ensure that it's used properly. And
do we feel quite confident that all the work that we can do around the square can be done without spoiling the historical features that we already have identified?
Yes, it's very much a different scheme than the one that was in before, and it will be really to open it up to allow people to get in from the corners, to put some extra lighting in there, and it may be low level lighting, that's probably more likely it will be on towards the ground level lighting, so people feel safer in there when they use it, walk through it at night, because people tend to walk round it when it becomes dark. They don't want to walk through it, and they're missing a trick there when they're walking round, but I quite understand why they won't walk through it at the moment.
Yes, I can understand. I mean, during Preston Guild, the atmosphere around Winkley Square was just absolutely brilliant. We had the food market, we had entertainment in the park. It was one of the best things I can ever remember going to, was being in Winkley Square during the Guild. It was just brilliant. And I mean, you were saying, I suppose, to bring commercial premises into the square. I don't think there'd be a shortage of people wanting to have premises within Winkley Square in the future. No,
that's one of the intentions, that you improve the environment there, and people just want to come and go out and have the lunch there, go and sit with clients there as well, and improving seating, put in a small area of paving towards the Avon Park end that would enable more events like the food market to take place on a regular basis, and you can't make those happen, but you make it much easier if you got stuff in place.
And the consultation process, I think, for the public, I think that started, is it this week?
Yes, I think it is.
I think it was the 4th of February, if I've got my details right.
Yes, you can go on the council website to...
The 5th.
Yeah, that was
yesterday.
Yesterday.
So for people who want to put their views forward, Wednesday the 5th of February to Friday the 21st of February, you've got the opportunity here to be saying what you feel you'd like to see in Winkley Square. What kind of feedback have we had so far? What is the general kind of feedback about the future of Winkley Square?
I think very positive compared to last time.
What was the difference, do you think, then?
It was a bit of an over-the-top scheme, I think. A lot of extra granite fittings and a fountain and stuff like that, which... It was based on the Regional Development Agency, and they ran a competition of what should happen, and they rather dictated what they wanted to see out of it. The competition winner should be developed as much as possible, and the totem pole at one end was perhaps going a step too far for people, and now, of course, the Regional Development Agency has gone away, and it's much more a Preston-based and a Winkley Square-based bid.
And I suppose what is beautiful about the square, of course, is the natural beauty of the square itself without cosmetic changes.
Absolutely, yes.
And once we finish the semi-pedestrianisation up here on Fishergate, I mean, we've got that now ending this year. It would be lovely then to have the gardens back again. And then you've got Avenham Park. So, I mean, the thoroughfare between Fishergate and Avenham Park, that is just a treasure in between the two.
Absolutely, and the park's looking fabulous now. The work that was done in there is now matured, and we're starting to see where the groundwork is now recovered after the guild, and it's probably this spring and summer is probably going to see that some of it's the best it's ever been for a long time.
So once the consultation process is through, when hopefully could things begin to start in Winkley Square?
Well, as I say, we finished, we got through stage one towards the back end of last year, and the process normally takes around about 18 months to actually getting money off the lottery. So, as I say, some of the planting and the tree and the seasons will dictate when you can do work in there, but as soon as possible once that process has been worked through.
Lovely. And somebody's just asked, were they contact? Well, you can go to planningpolicy@preston.gov.uk, and I think there's also an online questionnaire, so you can send your responses by email to policy@preston.gov.uk, or you can take the online questionnaire. So can I thank Cllr John Swindels for coming into the studio this morning? Thank you very much.
Absolutely, and you can write into the council as well. You write to me based at the council, and I'll pass your comments on if people have not got access to the online version. Yes,
brilliant. So there you are. So you can put any views, representations, questions in writing there to Cllr John Swindels. So can I thank you, John, for coming in this morning? Thank you very much.
Right.
If you have any news or events you'd like to share with Hughie and our Chat City team, why not give us an email, chatcity@preston.fm.